What you doing, boy? Alright guys, so this right here is more of an unexpected video. I wasn't going to record any of this, but here we are. So and the reason that I wasn't going to record any of this stuff is really because there isn't much of an audience for it. Whenever I do post these types of videos, it doesn't get that much attention, and the fact that I spend hours recording, editing, all that stuff, I need to make sure it's worth my time. But I feel like this is going to be something that's very important, even if it only helps a handful of you guys. I want you guys just to be aware, just for you guys to avoid any issues like this in your future. So here we have the Mustang. It is all up in the air. And the reason for that is because I've actually had to pretty much tear apart the entire front suspension. This side over here, the passenger side, is all finished up now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I put in new bushings for the tubular control arms. I put in a new ball joint, and I did get some strange adjustable shocks for the coilovers. And now I'm having to do that to the other side. So, and the reason that I'm even doing all this is because, you know, I have been driving this car. I have to put in 500 miles into it in order to finally get on it, right, to actually feel the power with the new 6-speed. But the last time that I drove the car, I was going about 75, 80 miles an hour, and I noticed that whenever I would accelerate a little bit harder, the steering wheel would start vibrating like really bad. And then if I was going to anything above 70, if I turned ever so slightly, the steering wheel would start vibrating like very, very aggressively. Enough to the point where I was like, holy shit, my wheel's about to fall off. And I honestly pulled off to the side of the highway. But thankfully everything was fine. So the problem was that the ball joint on this side, it was really, really bad. For any of you who don't know about suspension, ball joints, tie rods, all that stuff, that's actually one of the reasons I want to make this video, to help protect you guys. It does not matter what kind of car you have, but if you guys are ever driving and you feel some sort of vibration, please inspect your car. Please, please, please make sure your car is okay, because it is extremely dangerous and you can actually run the risk of getting into a severe accident, or even worse, you know, injuring somebody else on the road. So for example, like if a ball joint were to break off on something like this, you guys see that? There's really nothing else hooked up here. It's just a ball joint. So if that breaks off, that means my wheel is going to literally fall out, and the only thing that's going to be holding it is that strut and the tie rod. So that thing's going to smack back. It's more than likely going to bend inwards like that, and that is a really, really bad day. Is you grab your wheel from the 12 and 6 o'clock position and just move it up and down. If you feel some sort of movement, so that can be your ball joint, or it could be your wheel hub. Now, one way you can check it is by having somebody else do that same movement. You get under the car and look inside and see if that movement's coming in from where your ball joint is. Now, if that's fairly stiff and there's really no movement there, then you can go in and check your wheel hub. So this right here, this is a wheel hub. You can take your wheel and your brakes off and get it down to where it's just this here. And if you spin it, you'll usually hear like a grinding noise. You know, it sounds kind of messed up. This one here, as you see, is very quiet. That one's in good shape. There is no issues there whatsoever. If it's a wheel hub, usually you'll hear some noise and you'll get movement up and down, or sometimes even side to side. If it's a tie rod, you'll get movement from the 9 and 3 o'clock position. So you just move your car. Again, have somebody do it. You can get under the car and see if it's... Yeah, now it could be inner tie rod, which is connected to your rack and pinion, or it can be outer tie rod, which is this right here. I had to do this. This is called like a bump steer kit, and the reason I had to do that is because of all the turbo piping that's under the car. You have to lower it in order for the suspension stuff not to hit the piping and all that. But anyways, that's a different story. But yes, please make sure that stuff is good. Now, another thing that I did notice the last time that I drove this car, which was a while ago, and that was back when I still had a TH400, I took the car out to Mexico, and I noticed that the car started doing this. Like, it started kind of, like the back end felt like it was kind of wobbling. The last time that I felt that, I had changed the control arms, and actually I recorded that. There's a video of that on the channel. You guys see that, the blue control arms? I switched those out. Everything was fine. But now what I'm seeing here is that the actual bushings that are on the diff are going out. From right here, you can't really see it, but on the other end, which is gonna be hard to get the camera back there, you can see that they're all dried out and crusted and little pieces are breaking off. So I'm gonna be replacing these too. not too difficult of a process as long as you have the little tool. Basically, you just kind of compress the little puck out, press the new one in. Should be easy, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, you guys, make sure your suspension components and all that stuff is in good standing, because you guys don't run a risk getting into an accident or something even worse, God forbid. But yeah, that was a scare for me, man. Going 80 miles an hour and then having the steering wheel shake like that, that scared the crap out of me, I'm not gonna lie. Now, let me tell you guys why I did not want to record any of this stuff. One, because doing suspension work is really, really hard. It's dirty, it's greasy. I mean, I've been at it. This is me clean because I've washed my hands like 15 times today with that orange stuff. But doing like suspension work, yeah, I'm just looking at that, that's like a headache right now for me. But just to get this out, you guys, just to get the control arms out so I can put the new bushings in there, I had to disconnect my turbo oil feed. A crap ton of oil drained out. I had to disconnect my rack and pinion, get it off the mounting bolts, like get it off the mounting points. Oh God, it was so bad. I had like a puddle of oil everywhere there. I had to actually remove my oil filter just to be able to move the rack and pinion up just like about an inch, just to drop it down a little bit. I had to disconnect some sensors. I had to do so much work, you guys. And having to do all that while recording, nah, sadly, that's not something I would want you guys to see. I don't want you guys to see me all frustrated and like saying every curse word in the book, man. That was bad. Like that was difficult. This is the kind of stuff that I always try to do off camera because of how much time it takes. You know, yesterday I spent about 9 hours out here. Yesterday was Saturday. I spent 9 hours out here. Today is Sunday, and I've been out here for about maybe 5.5 hours already, and I'm still not done. This is probably gonna take me about another hour to put it all back together. I just got the new boot there on the ball joint, and now it's just a matter of reassembling everything, torquing down to spec, and then I gotta jump over to the rear to do those bushings. At that point, the car will be good suspension wise. You know, I read the comments, I read every single comment, and you know, some of the comments that I always remember is the ones where people are telling me, you know, I learn a lot from you, I like watching all these videos because I don't know anything about cars, and oh, now I know all this, you know, you've taught me so much, things like that. And I was thinking to myself, people rely on me to learn, and why would I not teach them stuff like this? Because, you know, a lot of people are going to run to the mechanic just to, you know, ask this or get a diagnosis when, you know, it's something that I could probably teach them just in a quick video. So if you guys have any questions over any of this, please drop me a comment. Let me know. I always respond to every single comment. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the comments is that if you leave me a comment and I don't respond within the first day or two, just don't stress out. It usually takes me a few days to go back, you know, because I'm busy all the time, but I always respond to everyone. So just give it time and I'll always get back to you. But again, any questions over anything that I've talked about in this video, let me know, and perhaps maybe I could even make a more detailed video about something that, you know, shows enough interest, okay? Time for me to get back under the car. Alright boys, and as you guys can see, the car is back on the ground. Now if you guys will notice one thing that's very different, the car is extremely low to the ground. Like really low. As much as I love the way this looks, this is unrealistic because there's so much piping under there that is basically going to hit the suspension. So as much as I want to leave it like that, I can't, because I just literally can't drive the car. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the car back up. You know, same ride height like before. To me, it looks perfect. It's about maybe a finger gap in between the tire and the fender, and that way the car is more drivable. This looks amazing, but it is really not practical. By now you guys understand that the point of this whole video is me trying to educate you guys on keeping your car up to date on your maintenance, and really just making sure that everything else is good so you guys don't run into any issues. So what I wanted to show you guys is this, something that could have ended really bad for me. And as much as I don't want to talk about it, you know, I'd rather talk about it to kind of hopefully save one of you guys from having any future issues with your car. Now, this does apply to anybody who runs their car on E85. If you don't know this, E85 is not like regular fuel. It does corrode fuel lines if it's not made for E85, or even if they are long term, it could cause some issues. This is a fuel system that was made about 10 years ago. Now, if you guys see here, this fuel line is different from this. This is the original stuff. Now, if you guys look at this, it's like cracked. It's not leaking, but it is really old. Now, if you guys look here, this is the new fuel line, which I made. This comes all the way from the back of the tank all the way to the feed right here, where it actually goes into the rail, splits, and goes into the other side. Now, the reason that I replaced that long fuel line is because of this. If you guys look at this spot right here, you see it's like a little dark. Well, the car was actually leaking fuel from here. Now, of course, I know some people are gonna say, well, you know, that's probably not the best type of fuel hose. There's better fuel hoses now. Yes, that is very true, but that doesn't change the fact that over time and over many years, fuel lines will start to corrode and degrade. So now this here, it wasn't leaking any actual fuel on the ground. The only reason I knew that it was leaking fuel is because I could smell, but I can actually smell like raw fuel, raw E85. So when I had the car running, I jacked up the car, looking over everything, and I couldn't see anything hitting the ground. But so I started running my hands through the whole fuel line, checking everything until I found that spot that looked darker. And if you watched it for long enough, you can actually see it start to get a little bit more wet. So yeah, that could have ended up really bad. We've all seen the horror stories of people's cars getting caught on fire, and you know, sadly, most of the time they're not able to recover it. But this here is something that is high, if not next on my to-do list. These are not leaking. Everything here looks to be okay. However, if that main line was already degraded, that means these are not too far back from it. So I'm gonna go ahead and create new lines for this. It's gonna be very simple. It's literally one line from here, and then the one that crosses in the back, and then this one here into the regulator. So thankfully it's not too much work, but you know, it's just one of those things that can save you and your car. So please you guys stay on top of all this kind of stuff, especially when you're building a car that's of this much value. You know, you don't want to run the risk of losing your ride. Again, I'm making this video because a lot of you guys tell me that you learn from me, and I want you to learn from my experiences or my mistakes, so that way you don't have to. So now it's time for me to get busy adjusting the ride height on this car, and that way I can go and start driving it, put in the last miles on it, and then we can start ripping on it. So I'll catch you guys on the next one, okay? Later.